My name is Alan Pratt. This is my 20th year in public ed, and I say public ed, still in public ed. I do work for LMU part-time in the sense of if I put my whole title up there, I'm trying to go through it. It's the Coordinator of School Partnership / something else, something else, something else. I pick up on the school partnership part a lot with rural education. Hey, we're on TV, so it's great. You're coming on in, rolling in. In my 20 years, classroom teacher, biology, physical science, chemistry, / career tech ed. And then I became a high school principal for 6 years. Went to work for the Department of Ed in Nashville as the East Core director. And then LMU came calling, and Battelle for Kids came calling, and a chance to work with my old district as well. So I decided to leave and go back into the area where normal people dwell, not the State Department. I'm not busting on them, I promise you. I'm just giving you, like it sometimes. This is on video, so I'll be in trouble anyway, so we're good. Part of my job is to travel through rural districts and help with collaboration in general, and help district administrators, help teachers. The best part of my job is working with what I call pre-service teachers, folks that are student teaching, folks that are actually going out in the field, and the folks that actually are passionate about the process of education. In my time with this job and the other jobs, I worked with service teachers at MTSU, ETSU, and also university. Now, the best part of my day. I love to talk to pre-service. And when she talked about interactive, you need to ask questions. I want to be interactive in the sense of, if there's something on your mind you're seeing in schools, let's talk about it today, and let's see if we can kind of help you out and go forward. You have the PowerPoint in front of you, so you can welcome to go through the process and all that good stuff. I'm going to go through some slides very quickly, and I'm going to stay on a couple of slides. So stop me, say, hey, I got a question, I have an issue, I don't agree with you, I think you're crazy. That's okay. All those are good comments to me. I'm good. Trust me. You're not going to hurt my feelings. Married with kids, so you can't really hurt my feelings. I have a teenage daughter, so you know the wrath of a teenage daughter. So we're all good. All right, the first thing we're going to talk about, and you'll see it, and you have the answer underneath, obviously, but if you can't see it on your PowerPoint, look at this comment and read through this in your head and tell me if this is how a lot of folks feel in the field right now. Pretty close, right on it, okay? The cool thing about this was written in the 1800s, late 1800s. Because they started standardized testing in a lot of public schools. This has been going on and on and on. There's been public debate over what we're doing. We're moving too fast, we're pushing too fast. To me, if you're a quality teacher and you love children, we got to push. That's the bottom line. Now, not everything's fair. That's part of life as well. We've got to push forward. And I always like to use this example. This is kind of highlights kind of what we do in education sometimes. We don't see a positive, like technology, in this case would be kind of like a technology piece. Teachers had issue with ballpoint pens. We can't fathom that today, correct? But they had issues with ballpoint pens. We're teaching our to be frugal, basically. Okay? It's all crazy. And we know that's how it goes. And I've been in school systems where teachers would tell me, hey, if you just give us a couple years to get our feet on the ground with this, then we'll go forward. We don't have a couple years. Because here's the problem. I have a student, second grader, and I have a student that's a sophomore. I want them to have the best possible education. And we're not competing against folks in Middle Tennessee. We're competing against folks worldwide. That's the biggest issue that we have to kind of remember. Because when my second grader is graduating high school, and I'll look like his father, but you don't have to say that out loud, but he will be competing in a world that we can't fathom right now. Think about the classroom, how it's changed, and what he will look at in the classroom. He's 7 years old. He can use the iPad better than my dad, who's 74. he taught my dad how to use the iPad. Pretty amazing, isn't it? Plays a video game. It's another issue, but we'll go on. All right. When you're looking at 7 habits of highly effective teachers, and you have this so you don't have to write it all down, you can go through it. I want to talk about these 7 and go through them quickly, and I really want to talk about the BFK work with highly effective teachers. This all leads into the process. But as you're going through your mind in your classroom, and let me stop. Are you guys working in schools right now? You're student teaching. And most of you folks are what we call, hey, how you doing? Come on in. Second career folks, meaning, or that's awesome. Great. So this is going to be kind of the shocker of the real world here. Talk about be proactive. Thinking about your part teacher or teachers you've witnessed in schools, they proactive. This is a part you can actually enter. You can nod your head and kind of stay with me a little bit. Are you, what now? Proactive? On the cutting edge of education and instructional strategies. Plus telling anyone, we're just telling truth here. They may be, they may not. Things where it's a kind of development. Folks begin with the end in mind. Amen. I mean, and here's the question. It must be teacher driven in the sense of they need to know what is going on and what they need. It's not always the case in every school system you work in. As a principal, I used to decide ahead of time, I was not a great principal, I would decide we need this, this, and this, and our teachers are going to go through it. Wasn't always my vision, what I thought we needed to do, but we were all at different levels. So it's been a great example to do that. What students want teachers to know? You're going to say, well, did they really say this? This is kind of summarized from some research. Number one is be creative. 8 weeks. Displacement. 8 weeks. You've probably seen something really creative, and you've seen some instructional lessons that were really like, I could go to sleep right now. Correct? Students' response to creativity, unbelievable. Students' response to technology, unbelievable. Everything else, sometimes the sit and get moments are not good. Your students, you can be better, or you can do better. Teachers don't want to do that. You're talking about an evaluation of students. Shelby County, Memphis City, they're all changed, but we're the first in the state to pilot the student observation, excuse me, I'm getting the right word, survey part of their evaluation process. You want to get real, you let a student have a survey on how you're teaching, they'll get real with you. Correct? Did it as an educator. In CTE classes, I really wanted to know how I could help them better. And I was in technology engineering. I did that every semester. Sometimes it was me. Eye-opening experience, and that's what we have to do to get better. But feedback is not always, even if it's negative, it's not bad. And then on your profession, or be professional, and that goes back to professional development, being proud of the students. They can tell if you think your job's not that important, or you're kind of going to pick it up quickly. The kind of key features I'm going to talk about. The next 5 here, I'm going to let you kind of go through them. I'm not going to read them to you. I'm going to highlight a couple. High expectations. Now, in the schools you work in right now, you can kind of nod, give me the look like, oh my gosh, whatever. Do they set high expectations for every child that walks in the door? Some yes, some no, some oh yeah, some don't ask me, don't call on me. I understand. That's the biggest issue. When you're looking at all the changes that the Department of Ed's going through and what we're trying to do with RTI squared, with testing, online testing, whatever it may be, it gets to the bottom line of, do we expect every child that walks through the door to be proficient and advanced? We want them to be as best as they possibly can be. Now, the measuring factor is going to be proficient push across the line. But do we hold it to that every child be the best? Or do we say, special ed, 4, child's family, bad, we expect him to fail. Kind of what, matter of fact, the principal, we started out, that's how my school was. The changing factor for me was when I was going to school one morning and I had a child that was about 18 degrees. He was walking to school in shorts early in the morning. So I pull over and say, "What are you doing? Why are you walking to school this morning? Where's your jacket?" I coach at the same school, so that's what she goes, "I don't have clothes. My mom hadn't been home in 3 days, and I've been taking care of my young sibling. I'm just trying to get to school." Under our policy, he was out of dress code, wearing the wrong clothing, and I was supposed to send him home to change. Nobody's sending him home to change. There's no clothes. So I called my boss and I said, "Hey, look, you may have to reprimand me because I'm not going to send this kid home and try to help him out." Kind of moment. I got to help them all. And sometimes, I say this is not a good way to say it, sometimes the rules have to be kind of massaged. Because you got to help them all. And that's the bottom line. So those are areas. Positive, and I think for a teacher, in the sense of you have an impact on a classroom and your school and your community like no other person in the world. Now, financially, maybe not. But you're kind of growing and helping pull a child along to make them a better citizen. The challenge that you have in front of you. So for me, I would always tell my teachers, if you want to take a day off, you want to slide a little bit, and you're wanting to kind of think about the child, nothing, has no one, they have no one to push them. So you're the person, you're the parent. You have to do everything for that child. It's that positive academic help. We talked about lessons, we'll talk a little bit more in detail. From 5, I think the key going on, this is the very part for me, is to collaborate with teachers, administrators, parents, and other education professionals. In your school you're working in now, do they have professional learning? Raise your hand. Awesome. Are they good professional? So, what do you talk about in the meetings? Good deal. Data at all in the conversation in the PLCs about common investments. You heard good. That's a positive because 5 years ago you'd be in this situation and that would not be happening in a lot of schools. So a lot of schools are seeing the process. That's good. Good deal. Good deal. The key role of the administrator, it totally changed in Tennessee. In fact, it so basically changed on the evaluation rubric. They have a new rubric to judge basically administrators. When I first building manager, he did some professional development, helped really just basically manage the building. Now the principal is definitely the instructional leader of the building, meaning he has a leadership team. With the leadership team, they're going to, by mandated state law, they're going to have a intervention team, building level intervention team by RTI squared. So all those things are into play. Well, of tomorrow must be, or as a technology guru, I think, to be able to blend these different areas together to help teachers. Very difficult. I really believe the days of a principal being in school 20 years, like it's been in the past, probably gone. I would say 5 to 6 is a good time frame. Is that me? Okay, scare me to death. There's a bomb. But for me, it was 6 year span. It's draining on a high school principal. Here we'll talk. This is kind of what we still have in the classroom today, which is basically teachers kind of feel like they're going to allow the students to have the information. Not the way to be, obviously. So that's our fixed mind from one another. And the other one is a growth mindset. And that's kind of what the new work and a lot of what the State Department's been doing and a lot of work that we're doing in other school systems is basically looking at what we can do to help positive results for teachers, and then leads to our positive results for our students. I have a graphic on there. I don't know if you can see it really well. I kind of wanted to highlight a couple of things on this one that goes into growth and fixed mindset. I wanted to look at one thing in particular. If you look at challenges, most people that have a fixed mindset, they avoid challenges like the plague. They're scared of them. They don't think they can kind of go forward. They don't think they can be better. Obstacles, they give up. Effort, it's not really an easy effort to get through. They're going to kind of pass and say, I'm finished. Criticism, and this is a factor that is very important, because when you go into, especially if you're in a Tennessee school system, you're going to be in the evaluation model, the team evaluation model. You're going to get feedback. If you have a great principal or someone great evaluating you, they're going to give you positive and negatives, and they're going to be open and honest with you. So that should happen. My evaluation with the State Department as a principal and now is very, very candid. It's to the point of, there are 3 things you're doing well, 2 things you're not doing well. Here's your score. Let's talk about what's going on. Some of it cut a little bit. It's pretty tough. It's right in your face. But you have to take it back and say it's not a personal attack. This is a chance to grow. That's the difference between that fixed mindset of they're attacking me, they don't like me, I need to find another job, to hey, they're trying to make me better. It goes back to that trust. And the reason I ask about PLCs and the collaboration part, if you have trust in your school and you have a culture of talking to each other and pushing back on each other in a positive way, then that environment is there for, I can make you better, you can make me better. That's it. Now, I've been in school systems that is totally opposite, and it is nasty when you talk to each other about things, because that's just, people don't like to be told what to do sometimes. All right? I've had teacher team meetings where I'd say, I don't agree with what you guys are doing. Convince me this is the right way to go. We're the educational experts. We don't have to convince you of anything. I'm shutting down right then, because there's not going to be any kind of interaction that's going to be worth anything at that point. So those are key things to look at as well. Success of others. If you have a fixed mindset, teachers, if they're fixed mindset, success of others, they're going to be success of the ones they can move through easily. Avoid those obstacles, avoid those problems. Those students are going to be okay. The ones that have major issues, probably going to be left behind. That's a major issue for me. So those are kind of the key factors: mixed mindset or fixed mindset. And then you look at the growth mindset. It's just open door, ready to roll. We believe all students learn. Pretty simple process. Very difficult in all schools, obviously. So I'm not going to ask you to answer this out loud, but I can kind of tell by face. Do you think your co-op teacher is fixed or growth mindset? That's kind of, do they have this is how it's going to be? And I'm not talking about rules. This is, some students are going to make it, some are not. This is all we can do. Or it's, we're going to make them all. We're going to do the best we can. We're going to push forward. Those areas to kind of look at in growth and fix. Any questions? So anything kind of pop up that you're seeing in schools? This is the intro part, and we'll talk about the BFK part coming up, Battelle for Kids. So I'd love to hear. Yes?
I'm in high school. One thing that I noticed is like the fear of being evaluated, and it's something that's constantly talked about kind of all day. It's like, am I going to be evaluated today? And I feel like some teachers have like an amazing lesson that they kind of just, they plan to do it every day because they think they might be evaluated. But then when they realize that they won't, they kind of say, well, I'm going to save it. And sometimes I feel like that makes that lesson for the day kind of less meaningful, because it's like, I'm not getting evaluated today, so we'll just
hold back and do whatever.
Yeah.
That's tough. And you're right. If we're teaching like that number one lesson every day, it doesn't matter when they come in. And one of the big reasons this is the unannounced time period of state evaluation or system evaluation. Yes, ma'am.
What my mentor teacher was doing, because she was also in her unannounced, she had a lesson prepared where she was going to teach something new. But because we had inclusion classes, if the evaluator walked in, she also had a review lesson ready, so that the kids still were going to get the review that they would have gotten at the end of the week anyway. And she was just building on it every day in case the evaluator came in. So that it worked out for the kids either way, whether they learned something new or reviewed.
And that's a positive. That's good. Yes?
Oh, we had, like, kind of know what she's saying. Our teachers, like, we spend the most of our POC, like our own thing, like on every Wednesday. The majority of that is spent in building their lesson plan for when they get evaluated. I mean, that's all they, and they have is like, they use one for becoming wellness and they use one for smoking, and they always laugh about the fact that they joke about it that they hope that they're transitioning from one unit to the next one, because sometimes they've had students like, we're not going over that, we're on nutrition, not, and they'll be like, shh, like, shut up, be quiet. And they'll transition, so they work on that one, the whole time, and they just save it for whenever they get evaluated so they can pull it out and use that one. And they've been using the same one for years.
And that's the hurdle, because you're almost to the point of, all we worry about is how long we evaluated. And then when you go into this new world of, and you probably heard a little bit from your teachers on strategic compensation, about I'm going to receive some form of different payment by some performance level. The school systems are doing it all different ways. Knox County has, I think they call it Apex, it's a different system altogether. Some systems are going to reward for level 3, 4, and 5 teachers to be PLC leaders or extended duties and pay them a little bit extra money. Some are actually going to bump their pay based on their evaluation score, their teacher effect score. I mean, those are factors that are coming into play. And I mentioned when I always go out, I want to hear, are your teachers talking about that issue now at all? Strategic pay, anyone? Yeah. What are they? What school system are you?
I'm at Belleville.
Okay. Which is Knox County?
Yes. And I would say similar to what everyone's saying, that it is constantly talked about, just nervous about being evaluated. And I've heard here and there about the pay, not so much, not a lot about that, but leading to that, and then also just nervous about evaluations and constantly, like every day.
So are you guys nervous about your evaluation when you were evaluated from LMU? You're nervous?
No.
No? So yes, I'm not. It's okay. I mean, it's good. If you're nervous, you care. It's okay. But I think the point is, when you carry forward, when you have your own classroom and you have that feeling that this is mine, this is my baby, you want to be that way every day. And it's tough, but that's how you have to be. Because you keep the mindset of this student, I'm pushing this student. Because, and for me, rural education was kind of my thing, and kids that don't have a lot kind of always been, that's my deal. I'm bleeding hard. So when students don't have something, I feel like it's my job to help them if they're in my area. So that's kind of what always drove me to kind of do the next step, go to the next level, and do what we need to do. So, any other questions, comments?
Okay.
Yeah.
Y'all, I've been teaching 50 years, and if I were going to be evaluated today, I would be nervous. There's no reason to be nervous. I would just be nervous. My advice to you is to be the best you can be. Nobody else can be you. You are unique.
You're right.
So just do the best job that you can do. Don't worry about the evaluation. That's their opinion. They sit on theirs, I sit on mine. Just do the best you can every day.
And the positive, if you have a situation where you have an administrator that you have good feedback with, and they do a good job of telling you what you did right and wrong, it's a chance to grow. And you can still be you, but you can grow and say, hey, you ever thought about doing something this way? So that's good. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I was talking to my co-teacher. He was telling me that, like with the evaluations and whatnot, how it affects your money and everything. That you can have a student that you held that their test scores increase and everything. Go to the next grade, test scores fall off, then they come back to your when they were in your class and change your scores, which can affect you getting
What, are you
jobs.
high school?
No.
Elementary?
I was like, whoa, I didn't know that.
Well,
Basically, you didn't have that student the next year, you know what I'm saying? And that teacher affects them.
I like to kind of know where they're pulling their information from.
Okay.
It's kind of not, I mean, I understand probably what he's trying to go to, but you're looking a lot of times at the 3-year average,
Okay.
and that 3-year average is what you're going to be basing it.
Okay.
That's the biggest, when you look at people right now, like one of the big debates across, I think South Carolina, Kentucky, and Ohio right now, in Tennessee, is the debate on should we have a year off from PARC. They said, we're going to test PARC, we're going to test, can we have a no count year? A lot of states are looking at that as a kind of an option. Tennessee's not looking at that So, and that's gonna be kind of a big issue, yeah.
I kind of know where Trey's coming from.
Okay.
I had a fourth grade teacher come to me. She showed me her TVAS scores, her value-added scores from a certain year.
Yeah.
She said it was such. Then the next year, the kids, she's fourth grade, they went to fifth grade. They didn't make the expected gains in fifth grade, so they came back and readjusted her 1 year average on previous year's scores. And I said, that's not right, that cannot be. So I called the people in Knox County that were over statistics, and they said, yes, it is.
But is that a local?
I think it's state, it was state scores, they
It came from SAS, which would have been the T-Boss, but it's
Yes.
probably not gonna be their total teacher effect score. Maybe it should be their value-added score.
It was their value
Yeah,
added
which
scores.
all that's gonna be
changed.
added together
Yeah,
to get your, I mean, it's not gonna be, that's not the only thing that'll be judged upon.
but it will change and it doesn't seem
Yeah.
logical, but it does.
Yeah, it does.
That's what
That's what I'm
happened.
saying.
Yeah,
I
I-
don't
That's
believe it.
crazy.
I thought she was mistaken, but I think called people in statistics.
I would love to, if you don't mind, if you would shoot me an email on, because I'd like to send it up to, not the person's name obviously, but the question up to Nashville to see what the folks that deal with value added every day has to say. 'Cause I kind of have some
It
questions.
seems counterintuitive.
Yeah, I have a question about that in a little bit, so we'll kind of look at that, so that would be difficult. All right, the next part of this is what I hope you've seen. Has everyone seen this portal before? No. All right, here's the beauty. This is free online courses. This is free information for you. So if you're in the field, you need information on highly effective teachers, you need information on formative assessments, balance assessment, value added, it's all here. And basically what you have, and what I'll highlight here, is on this portal here, you have highly effective teacher principal online courses, and you have a portal up top where you can log in. LMU has a code that is given by BFK, and the code is here. It's also on your PowerPoint. Free access. Anything you want to look for as far as BFK resources, free to, all you do is have an email address, use the code, and set it up. This is vital. I know a lot of the professors at LMU, a lot of professors at other universities are using these courses, and a lot of school systems are using these courses. This will be the main page. This is the portal page, and at the top it says My Portal, and you'll have to create an account. If you look on your PowerPoint, you have, this is your account login, and you're probably not going to have email password set up yet, but you'll have the little tab that says Create a New Account. Simple process. If you have any questions about how things are set up, this is paid for by Racing the Top Dollars. The key problem right now is this may be the last year we have the courses, but since you're in this process now, it'd be a good chance to go through, look and see what we have, and kind of work through these. Tennessee was #1 in the nation with BFK with online course usage, the highest output of anyone in the United States. So it's a good kind of free resource guide. I would assume most of your teachers you work with have some kind of access to BFK and to this portal. So I would make sure that I would go online and set up your account and kind of look and see what's going on. All kind of free resources. At the back of your handout, you have a resource that's kind of a practical guide to BFK. This is one that will be on the website as well. This kind of gives you answers to any kind of question you have about gap closure, about RTI squared, about balanced assessment system, and about the teacher evaluation system. So all the coursework and all the information is kind of set up for you. It's on there. We'll look at the highly effective teachers kind of set up here and go forward here. On the main portal page, and what we do with teachers and what we work with, we go through the 3 courses of the Introduction to Highly Effective Teacher Research. Now, why this is important, BFK interviewed and worked with level 4 and 5 teachers in the state of Tennessee. And they designed these courses based off level 4 and 5 teachers. So you have highly effective teachers in practice, and this is kind of what the process and kind of the information and research that you'll need to kind of be the best teacher possible. The first course is basically the introduction to research. The second one's going to be your survey, and the third will be kind of the framework of how this is set up. This course, the 3 courses, you can take it honestly in about an hour, all 3. And the beauty of it is, and when you're finished, most districts have their folks print off a certificate or email their certificate back to their central office so they know they've worked through that PD part. So that's kind of the key for highly effective teachers and principals. In that process, you'll see this self-assessment survey. And what we do in Marion County Schools, if you're a level 1 and 2 teacher, we ask the teacher to go through this and rate this 1 to 12. What's number 1 and what's number 12? Meaning, how do you rank these as important in your classroom? And then we take evaluation scores and the evaluation process, and we go through and we compare and say, hey, look, you told me that this is what you believe is number 1. When I'm going through the evaluation process, this is what I'm seeing that we need area of refinement. So let's talk about how we can get better. Very simple process, and I think it's good to kind of go through this and kind of see where you stand. And that's course number 2 of the highly effective teachers. So I strongly advise you to go through this process. It's very simple. You can do it in one evening and kind of check it out. So good stuff. Any questions on the HET courses? How many folks have looked at this graphic before? Good, we got an open audience. This is the balanced assessment system. When we're talking about a balanced assessment system, I want you to look at a couple of key factors. And you probably make it too small. Let's go with a couple of things here. You see value-added analysis. You're looking for strengths, weaknesses, formulate goals. And you see all of these formative assessments in responsive teaching. The formative assessment is that minute-by-minute assessment of students. It can be handwritten assessment. It can be a verbal. It can be visual. Are you seeing this in your classroom now? Good deal. Good. What subject area?
We use it for math.
And what are you currently working with now?
Second grade. I'm going to 4th grade now.
Oh, good deal. So you use a lot of formative assessments?
Yes, sir.
All right. High school folks using formative assessments. Yes? Good deal. Good. How are you using formative assessments in high school?
Well, during discussion, we have like everyone raise their hand if they understand this, and that way we can kind of see who's struggling and who's not. We do it with discussion feedback just based on the answers kids are giving us. We go around and check their notebook as they're doing examples to make sure that they're writing the right things down. That way if they're struggling, we can stop them in the middle of the lesson.
Okay. All right. Any other examples? High school wise, middle school, elementary? You know where formative assessments is an easy way to incorporate is your extracurriculars, not extracurriculars, but your what I call the enrichment or your PE wellness. Very simple formative assessment. If you've ever coached a sport before, you've been to practice, it's formative assessments all day. Because we're basically guiding that person through the process. You know, if you're talking about how to shoot a basketball, it's the same process. So what's my stance? How am I going to hold the ball? What am I looking for next? And I'm giving that constant feedback right off the bat. Hey, see the ball went to the right, you pushed it to the right. It's that's formative assessment. It's that constant minute-by-minute feedback in the process, which can relate right back into the classroom as well. So those are kind of key areas. Here's another one: monitor progress, which I think is cool, and then common benchmark assessments, which in a situation would be like at a 9-week mark or a 4-week mark or whatever. Formative assessments again, you see this whole process going around. This should be a 1 complete school year or 1 complete course. That's kind of go through the process. And the key is, a lot of folks, state achievement-wise, if you're in the classroom that long, they kind of quit, which is not the way it should be, but they kind of back off after state test because we're finished, we're pushing to the point. Well, if you're state testing TCAP, right now you're testing in April. School doesn't get out till May. So what are we doing from end of April to May, through May? Well, if you're really pushing to the next level, we should still be doing the same process. We should be seeing what we're doing right and wrong, pushing forward, and seeing how we can make progress for the next school year. So those are kind of key things to look at in this process as well. Any questions on the balanced assessment system? All right. On your handout, you'll have 10 kind of itemized areas about formative assessment, and I'm gonna bullet and highlight a couple of things. This kind of plays right into the courses from BFK to FIP process. You'll hear FIP as we go forward. FIP is formative instructional practices. Courses online, how to set this up and go forward. Right now in this process, when you begin a lesson, are you freestanding teaching now, or are you still co-op teaching with something?
Oh, We're switching right now, so
You're about to go be the teacher,
no, we're about to go to our second placement.
so you'll be, what, a week, and then you'll go be, or how long is that transition?
Depends on the class.
Depends on the classroom,
Yeah.
depends on the teacher, good deal. When you start a lesson, you begin with clear learning targets, or you have like an I-CAN or I-CAN statement or whatever, good, all right? Key to know. And here's the thing, when we talk to teachers about in this process, when we talk to how this goes forward, students want to know the beginning process and what the end product's going to be. They want to know exactly what's going to be. Even the youngest grade levels, you need an I-CAN statement or I know I can do this statement. Very difficult for teachers who've been in the field for a while to come back and try to pick this up. Because they don't think, and especially high school. They think high school folks don't want this. High school students want to know, what's it look like at the end product? Show me what this looks like. When I get to the finished product, this is what I should be able to do. High school folks like that. And I, from my daughter's standpoint, and this is one of the best experiences this year, is her Algebra 2 teacher has a flipped classroom. The most amazing thing in the world. He videos the night before, they watch the video at home, they take notes, and they work when they get to classroom. Never thought it would work for Algebra 2. It's awesome. The greatest thing. She loves it. I mean, she absolutely loves math now to the point of, it used to be, we drill, kill in the class, work through it, but now they get the instruction part from the night before, and they're actually working in the classroom with each other or with the teacher and going through problems they may have. Flipped classroom. You don't know much about the flipped classroom process? Look it up. One of the best flipped classroom teachers is in Alcoa City Schools. Does a real good job with the flipped classroom. So they begin, in his situation, they have clear learning targets. First time I went to see him teach, he said, now look, you're not gonna see me do a lot in front of the class, because I do that at night on video. Because you're gonna see me work with students individually. It's unbelievable.
My only question, I've witnessed the flip, I've been researching the flip classroom. I mean, how effective is it like in, I think it's geared more towards high school and middle school. It wouldn't work in elementary, would it?
Well,
It will?
yeah, you basically, and one of the pushbacks that we always received in the rural sector was that kids don't have the access to
The
technology at home.
exactly.
If you go to a school, even the small school that I was from, everyone has this.
Okay.
They have a smartphone for the most part, or they have some type of device. Now, what we started working with in Alcoa does the same thing. They make technology available before school, after school, and then during lunchtime, so a student can catch up. It's the same process for the flipped classroom. What the teacher at Alcoa High School uses, he uses the flash drive, he gives them the flash and says, hey, you need to watch this before you come to class. Or if you miss a day, you're gonna watch this before we go into the lesson. So it's really good. You'd have to be kind of change the process is different, of course, different level. High school would be totally different than using for first and second grade. But I think it would be kind of something neat. I mean, it works for older learners for sure. Look at all the online programs going on right now.
Yeah.
In the blended model, it does work.
Okay.
And they like it. I mean, my daughter, I mean, it's been the greatest thing for her. So I hope they keep continuing the process. So, yeah. Any other questions? Clear learning targets key. And we can talk about the feedback, instructional feedback. We talked about plan instruction around content requirements and student needs. And those are kind of vital aspects as far as formative assessment. So, any other questions on the formative assessment process? Any questions on how to solve global warming? Just trying to get you moving a little bit. The BFK portion of this, you have the portal, the same login when you set it up. You'll have 5 courses: foundations, clear learning targets, evidence. We have feedback, and then students take ownership of their learning. I'm not saying go through every one of those courses tonight. What I'm saying is you need to look at those about what is going on and what's the research saying about formative assessment. It's very good, and it'll give you an idea on how you need to set up certain things in your classroom. Are you going back to your classroom tomorrow, your new classroom placement tomorrow? Yeah, I would check with your teacher to see what they're doing formative assessment-wise. I also think if you're looking at this research when you go to interview for jobs, you need to know the lingo. You need to understand, ask questions like, does the school currently use a balanced assessment system? Are we doing something? What are we doing for benchmark assessment? What are we doing? I mean, those things are good to know and kind of be a part of, because then you kind of understand what climate you may be walking into. A big push in a lot of school systems are to do sample teaching before they hire you. That's kind of the next thing that's coming. They'll do, especially elementary school, they kind of work that in. They do a 15 to 20 minute lesson. You may do it in front of 2 or 3 people. Sometimes they tell you, sometimes they throw it on you. So you gotta be ready. So those are kind of key areas. Kind of the last part about balanced assessment, this is kind of we'll talk about a little bit. How many of your teachers in your last placement use pre-assessments before they went into the instruction? Yeah, good deal. Austin East and English, right? That's good. Unbelievable. And I don't know their data off the top of my head, but I think they're doing a lot of good things at Austin East and kind of moving the needle a little bit right now. So pre-assessment's the key. For me, especially if you're looking at student work, students like to see what the end product would be. They like to see what a C product would be, a B product, an A product would be, and they would like to see kind of what it would be like if you didn't do a good job. So that's vital for student assessment. If you look at pre-assessment for the teacher, if you pre-assess an item or pre-assess a certain standard, if they mastered it, the majority of classes mastered it, why go bore them to death going over it? They know it. Let's move forward. You can touch on it and see the connections, but why waste time? Move forward. So those are good key areas. Any questions on balanced assessment? Basically what I'm doing, I'm covering a couple of highlight points so we have time at the end for you guys just to question and answer, and we'll go through some items on PARC as well. This is the next one. How many folks have seen this model? 1, 2, 3, 4, we're gradually moving forward. All right, if you are in any school next year, which you hope to have a job, right? That'd be a good thing to have. You're gonna hear this like crazy. If you're a elementary folk, high school folk, middle, anything, even if you're not in a tested area, you're going to be bombarded with this. And I'll tell you why. For me, in the districts that I work in, for Tier 1 intervention and Tier 2 intervention, we are bombarding our, what I call the enrichment courses to help us with this intervention. We don't have enough teachers to show. We're going to have math intervention today, so all of our math teachers are going to help every student in the building. Well, you're not going to have enough math teachers to do intervention. So we borrow from every teacher in that building. Librarians, PE teachers, whatever we can find, they're going to help us with intervention. So when I say you're going to be in this process, you are. When I say your evaluation score, part of this is going to be a part of it, yeah, because you're school-wide or system-wide, depending on what you're doing. So you want this child to be better at math, you want them to be better at ELA. So as a principal, I'm going to say, hey, I need you to help me with reading second block. I know you got this going on, we have an intervention time, you're going to help these students. That's coming. All right, so when you look at this, kind of sometimes you say, it's more of the core subject areas. You're going to be involved in the process. I promise you. Especially if you're in Knox County and then some of the surrounding counties, you will be in this process. So, yeah.
I'm already in it.
Good. Good deal. Knox is, they're on the intervention. And elementary folks, you have to be mandated for RTI squared. High school has a year off. Basically, you can take a waiver because the state's kind of offered, but high school intervention is going to be difficult. Yes?
That's what I was going to ask. I knew that I'm at Fulton High School, and they were talking about
Mr. Spees is the principal.
Yes.
A good guy. Yeah.
So they were talking about that, wanting to take a year off because if they don't use that waiver, then their whole they do 45-minute classes in the lower houses, so it would throw everything off. They have to on a block schedule just to get that fit in during the day. So they are planning on probably
doing the waiver. Most people are. But it's still going to be a process where you're going to be kind of involved in the RTI square. What subject are you working with now?
English.
English, yeah. You're going to be, it's going to be all over it. And one of the key components of Tennessee is Tier 1 instruction is not where it needs to be. So a lot of states, a lot of school systems in Tennessee, you'll see that it says 85% of our students should be in Tier 1. Because we don't do a good job in Tier 1 instruction sometimes, we're up at 90. I mean, actually, with the Tier 2, so we're up at 90% in some areas. You know what I'm saying? Or we're down to 60%. It fluctuates in Tennessee. When we first started looking at intervention in elementary school in Marion County, our Tier 2 was 35%. So we're saying 35% of our kids in the system have to have some kind of extra help and should be on the process towards special ed. No way. We're not doing a good job in tier 1. So that's kind of what we kind of worked at. High school numbers are going to be crazy when they first go through this process. It's just going to be high school folks don't see intervention as needed at their level because when they get to high school, they either have it or they don't. And that's the mindset right now, which is very difficult. That's why when we talk about collaboration, it's tough at the high school level. Because people want to live in those silos or caves and they don't want to talk about how they teach. It's just part of it. Tough areas. We're going to go through some park sample items and TCAP sample items, and then we'll kind of go through some resources that are available free on the website from the state and other areas about park testing. And then I'd love to talk about if park testing is being brought up in your school right now. Your kind of concerns coming forward. All right, what I did here, I pulled a sample TCAP item from an EOC English 1. This is currently how we're testing students on English proficiency. We have a picture, we have a nice little question, and we have 4 choices. Okay? I've heard kind of conversations today. We had some students that come in late, or we had these students just come move into us. That student technically could show mastery on this particular standard and never have a day of instruction in your classroom. Right? Correct? They could guess, they could put their 4 fingers on the table and hit them, and which one tingles the most would be the letter you put down, right? Or you could put, in this case, would be H, would be the 3rd item, is the good answer to go with. But it doesn't really test what we need to know to go to the next level as far as teaching. This is a sample passage. This is not the whole passage from PARC. The student's going to be asked to read this passage, follow instructions, and give evidence that they understand and can answer the question. A little bit different, correct? You don't have to read the whole thing, but you get the idea. This is a little bit more complex than what we're doing currently. First time I worked with the PARC assessment, I went back to some cooperating teachers and some folks I worked with, and I said, holy cow, we're in trouble. I'm serious. I mean, if you look at how we're instructing in certain areas compared to what they're going to assess, we're in trouble. Very much so. You can think about co-op teachers and you go, well, I don't know. This is a high school sample. This is the next part that they're asked to do. Basically, sample items for grade 9, you're basically going to take the supporting evidence in a column and put the ones that are most likely to answer the question. There's usually about a 3 or 4 parts to this. I just kind of showed one area. This is what the answer product would look like. All going to be on one page, obviously. But they're going to drag this over as supporting evidence. Now, if you go back to the original one, the one from TCAP, a little bit different. This is 9th grade sample. Compared to this. Big instructional sheet. And that's going to be the big key area. If you look on the website areas that I'm going to highlight here, right now, parkonline.org, you can take the online TestNav PARC assessment for grade bands 3-5, I think it's 6-8, 9-12. Okay? My daughter owed me a favor on a Saturday. She's a 10th grader. I made her take the high school assessment part. She was mad, but she did it. Funny how you can promise to buy something and they'll be all happy with you. You end up taking somewhere. All right. Very important you look on PARC Online. You're going to hear start listening to the news. There's going to be, right now there are 8 bills up against PARC in the state, and there's 8 bills up that are for PARC in the state. Some of them were kind of shelved last time. This was last week at this time. I think, honestly, PARC's going to make it through, and we're going to be dealing with PARC. Different world for a lot of people. Online testing. That's one animal. The depth of knowledge that we need to be able to have our students produce is going to be difficult as well. So PARC Online. AchieveTheCore.org. great resource for your classroom, great resources for how to implement Common Core. And you can say, well, you've been through Common Core, we understand. You need a the back pocket item that you can pull from and say, I'm having questions, I'm having trouble in this, here's my item, here's what I need. And then the top one is 10 Core. How many folks have been to the 10 Core site? Good, it's a good number. That is the latest information on Common Core implementation and transition. It should be on the 10 Core site now. You should be able to give your email address and get the updates sent to you, just like a teacher in the classroom or someone in the system would receive. News and updates, enroll, subscribe, whatever you can do, get those updates. Because basically they send them out once a month, and it's an interactive page they email to you. You click on the little blue link, and it gives you the information you need. There should be a pamphlet, it should be a manual coming out on the 10 Core site that's going to give you all the information you need about Tennessee Park. It's 8 chapters, okay? LMU hosted the training for local LEAs at this location at the end of January. It's 8 full chapters of information. Go to chapter 4 and chapter 5. Chapter 4 is the instructional shifts of Park. You need to know what's going on in those instructional shifts. It is vital to make it happen. Park is the big game changer for Tennessee. And it's going to be difficult at first. You're going to see some issues, and you're going to hear some comments about why we need to be this kind of proactive right now. And then we'll go back to those students and we say, we have to help those students compete in a global market. Those are kind of the big 3 areas. Any questions, concerns, comments? Because this is kind of what I'd like to do right now, is kind of open the floor for you guys to say, hey, I've got a question about this on Park, I've got a question about this on evaluation, I've got a question on this about whatever. It's open time. And that's why I want you to be able to ask the right question wherever you need to do. So it's on you. Come on. Give me a good question. They're all good questions, promise. Yeah.
I was in 2nd grade, my first placement, and they were talking about the students next year in 3rd grade having to take this test online and typing, and we've been working with the students, to type, to practice and learn typing, and to sit there and watch them. The second grade level, they're still kind of pecking, I'm sure on an iPad or something like that, they'd be much faster, but just to type on a regular keyboard. So I don't see them being, very proficient next year. So how is that going to be addressed if they can't, maybe they know the answer, maybe they can answer the question, but if they're struggling with, okay, how do I figure this answer out and how do I type this in?
Mm-hmm. I think, number one, you're going to look at this in a situation of what do we need to change in our instructional practices to help those students be successful on the test. And I'm not teaching to the test, but we know what the outcome's going to be, we know what the end product's going to look like. So what do we need to do as a building level principal? I would say my 2nd graders need, my 1st graders, my kindergartners, they need time on keyboard. They need time doing what is actually properly needed. So I'm working into my plan whatever I need to do to make that work.
But they don't have, the classroom I was in had 4 computers in the classroom. The one I'm in now only has 2.
Exactly.
And then they have the computer lab, but that has to be shared with the whole school. So
Right. That is a major concern.
Yeah. I can see if they were doing a lot more of their assignments or things on actually typing, but it's just they may practice 2 times a week on typing.
And the beauty, the one thing that's a positive is the testing window, like the TCAP now, is basically a day and it's a week. Park testing is going to be basically a 3 or 4 week window. So every child's not going to test on the same day, and that's a positive. As an administrator, I'm going to test the students I feel that are really ready that first week, and then I'm going to tear off on the students that may need extra help. So that gives me kind of a little game plan I can play to kind of help that situation. So that's going to answer some of the questions there. It's not students who have trouble reading, have trouble in school, they're probably going to have trouble on the keyboard as well. And we know that coming into it. So, yes.
You just answered my
Okay.
question.
Yeah. So Park's going to be it's going to be a challenge, especially funding wise for a lot of districts. A lot of districts go into what they call, if I say this wrong way, I apologize, like a proctor caching, I think it's kind of for testing. Basically, You'll take the test. At the end of the day, they'll push all the information to Pearson's area. I don't know. I'm not a big technology guy, so and I like it, but not to that level. So that's kind of what my school system did. It saved a lot of money. So that's kind of been good. Yes. Any other questions? Park, TCAP, anything? Team evaluation. Yes.
I guess one of my concerns is it seems the part that seems to be really reading intensive. And I found that, I mean, I've been with 11th graders and they hate reading. Like they really want to do anything to bypass reading. And when they do read, it takes them much longer than I would have expected, you know, for them to start reading just maybe a passage. So I guess just kind of overcoming that barrier, like how do you promote more reading without boring the students?
This is going to sound stuff right, goes back to the structural changes that we need to do, what we're trying to do for students. That's in a school system or a school has to have a plan to address those students. They're going to come up when you're looking at intervention time. That's going to be an area of need because they're obviously not going to be at the proper reading level they need to be. That's going to be yet to be addressed. Those same students will have trouble with mastering the keyboard and say, well, they can type, they can interact, but not the right way to make it efficient for them to finish the test when they need to finish. So, yeah.
I was about to say, my teacher is doing like ELA Common Core training, and we driving back to our school started talking about that, and that's where like a lot of text-based evidence, like making sure you're throwing that into your teaching
In all subjects.
in all subjects,
Yeah.
even from like kindergarten up. But like, and I understand, but even reading the passage that you showed us, like I was bored reading that. I read through the whole thing, and then when you pulled up the question, I was like, well, I don't know what I just read.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I know it's
And
about
that's very
DNA
difficult,
testing and crops, and I was like, well, I'm 26 years old. If I was 16 taking that test, I'd be like, oh. And I would have to scroll back up and reread it again.
Yeah, and the interaction part, when you see it on the park, it's a little easier than what I showed on the slide because it's a little bit easier to maneuver because they have the passage and they'll have the question on the right side of the screen. So it's a lot easier. They have a highlight tool on the test, so you can highlight. So there's a lot of, because kids are pretty tech savvy on a lot of that.
Right.
So they have a menu bar so they can pull things down and do what they need to do.
And the
So that's
fact
gonna be
they
better.
would be able to, because I was like, well, that'd be nice if I was able to take notes while
Yeah,
writing.
and they'll highlight, and that's the key. So it's a valid concern, but it goes back to the point of that's why social studies, science are going to be vital for literacy help because as far as the text-based evidence. So it's good. Yeah.
I think my biggest concern about this standardized testing, whether it's on the current EOC or on Park that we're moving to, I've been working with inclusion IEP kids all semester, so when we do assessments in class, they have read aloud, they sometimes even have someone to write their answers for them, and then when they move to this EOC or to a park, they don't get that structure anymore.
Well, it'll be changed a little bit, but if you go to the Park Online, there's an accommodation section. They'll talk about all the accommodations that Tennessee's going to allow.
Okay.
A lot of the accommodations that they're currently receiving, a lot of the same setup for them. But it'll have to be IEP determined, and it'll have to be agreed upon by the team, and it has to be submitted to Pearson and to the state so they know exactly what test they need to log into and go from there. One of the key things is a lot of the accommodations that we do give special ed children, they're going to be kind of on that testing site already. So some of the highlights, all students are going to have access to some of that information. The key is going to be the big shift in what we had last year in the sense of all students will test. There will not be any kind of accommodating, different type. That's the key shift that's going to be difficult. I'm kind of currently for, I would like to test all, just because we need to push, we need to go
Well,
forward.
no, I agree with testing all the students, but the score that they would get on a test in my classroom, showing that they know the information, compared to the score that they're going to get on a high-stakes test like that, I don't feel like that high-stakes test is going to be an accurate scoring for that student.
And you could have a difference, yes. And it goes back to how we're going to have to shift our instructional strategies to match what we're going to be testing on. So, good question, and it's a valid concern. It's a concern If you had every special ed director in the 22 districts around Knoxville in there, that'd be the same concern of all 22 school districts. So,
In my kindergarten class, they have to do a writing to resources. I had to teach the sponsor text to them last week, what the sponsor text was. And I read about two different homes. It's about TPs and Pueblos. Well, we're inner city in Green Bay School. They don't know anything about Pueblo, never heard of one. So, but it's the simple fact that I read it to them, and I know they have to pull information from that text to even write it to the resources. So what I did, the question was, how do you build a TP? Well, they talk about different things in that text, and I had the students to recall what the text said, and I actually did a graphic organizer chart, and then had them to actually make and build their own TVs, just so it can embed in their brain, so they can write to it the next day.
That's great. You're right.
But you have to make it interesting for them and make it relevant to them. If you don't make it relevant to them, then they're not gonna really want to read it or anything with it.
Being ADHD, elementary school for me was very difficult. It's because they set the road. We couldn't move out of the road. We get to high school and vocational part, life was good because we got to move and we got to touch and we got to do different things. I think you have to look at it from that standpoint for students, especially kindergarten, first, second. You know, my youngest is the second grade, and he unfortunately taken the ADHD from me. So he has it, we talk about clipping down all the time if he gets in trouble. He likes to talk a lot and be movement, and it's a major battle for him. But when they do lessons, they do things that are kind of more interactive, you have a problem. So that's a positive. I think that's just, for me, I'm lucky he has a first year teacher. She's kind of willing to do whatever it takes to get to the next level, so kind of hit a home run in that sense. So that's difficult. Yeah. Questions?
What about like the testing? Are they going to be accommodating for that?
Second English, second language? Yeah. Yeah, there'll be it's in the same website. There'll be some.
Kind of like my students now, we get a test now, have either let them use their phone to translate, or
it's difficult.
Or else I get a blank paper back.
But with technology online testing, there's a lot of accommodations there that are easier for those students as well. So it's all on the Clark side.
That was my question. Like the read aloud would be my biggest concern as an administrator too. If you're constantly having to read aloud to special ed, if they're asking you to go back to the text, does that make sense?
Yeah,
I was just wondering, will the read aloud be on?
Yeah, well, I think there'll be headphones and there'll be.
So it won't have to be like an actual person.
To the best of my knowledge, and I think that's going to be an area that's going to be better. Yeah, I think so. What was funny, we have a lot of systems doing park field testing right now. So the state sent an email out saying, make sure they have earphones for the test coming up. Or the local testing coordinator, God love her, sent out, you need to go to somewhere and buy headphones for everyone. So I sent the email back and said, why? So they got to have headphones. I said, every high school kid in our school, in our system, has some form of headphones or something they have to listen to, music or whatever. Ask them to bring it in. If they don't, then we'll get some headphones. Don't go buy 700 sets of headphones for no reason. They have it. My daughter carries them around all the time. I mean, that's just part of it. It's crazy.
You wouldn't believe how quickly that disappeared from the hallway to the
Very true, very true. And if you bought them, they're going to disappear.
Yeah.
Yes, they're going to be in a pocket, gone. Don't blame them, so go ahead.
This doesn't necessarily have to do with park, but we talked a lot about making accommodations for ESL and for people with IEPs and for just people that struggle in the classroom, on park and in the classroom with intervention. What about your gifted students that, I have a kindergartner that reads at a second grade level. I know he's bored. He's bored all the time in class. But there's not anything out there for him and I don't like to continue to be like, oh, you're done, here, do this. Like, he gets up in class and reads to the class. He's like, can I read a book to the class? I'm like,
there should be something that you can do for the child to enrich and go forward. Mm-hmm. If you're looking at it, technically he's classified as an under special ed because he's gifted. So there should be accommodations and things in place to help him out. Mm-hmm. Should be. And it's an issue where it goes back to if we pre-assess and the student already has the mastery of information, then we can differentiate enough to find him something to do while the others are trying to catch up. That's tough. Testing wise, Did you listen to teachers talk about CRA testing? You heard of CRA testing? A lot of the complaints from the gifted students on CRA, you have to explain why you answered something a certain way, especially math. Well, gifted kids can go, that's the right answer. They know, but they have to explain the process. And that was an issue that came up early last year. When students went, why did I get this wrong? I got 0 points for this, but I got the right answer. It's the process. And that's tough for gifted kids. A good friend of mine, his daughter is off the chart smart. She's a senior this year. I mean, off the chart, like way up. She hates the ACT in some areas because she feels like it's kind of demeaning, which that's a whole different story. But she hated the CRA, any part of the CRA, because she had to tell why she answered something a certain way. She bombed. And I had to go to him and say, look, man, she has to kind of show why she answered the question or show the process. Just give me the answer, those days are finished. I'm kind of glad she's graduating for her sake. You know, because it'll be difficult. That's a tough world.
And it can also be a positive too, because I have a son, I have a daughter who's very gifted, and my son struggles. And he might be able to explain the answer a little bit, even though he gets it wrong, explain his thinking to where he's going to get some points as to where she just writes down the right answer. So,
see, to me, I think the process of explaining and showing your answer and why you did something, I think it helps special ed kids. I mean, because it's a good process. And a lot of times they have to go through that process anyway to answer an item on a normal test. So I think it's good. I think, you know, it's positive. I think we'll see that as a positive down the road, so I agree. Any other questions, concerns, complaints about the State Department or me or anything else? Yeah, go ahead.
I have a question about the team evaluation. From what I've heard from my cooperating teacher, and she's great. She's consistently scoring a 4 on the team evaluation. But she's telling me that if you're doing your job, it's not difficult to get a 3. You have to be going above and beyond, you know, of course, to get the 4. But it's pretty much, she says it's nearly impossible to get a 5. Like, it's just something that, you know, like saying shooting star to get a 5. So is that correct? Is that the right information?
It depends on who's evaluating her. So, I mean, from that end of it, on the qualitative side of actually seeing it, it depends on, if you have someone that's evaluating her that's kind of real lenient, she's probably going to be a 4 or 5 no matter what. If you get someone that's going to really do a good job and look at the rubric, that's where you can have difficulty. 3 is really good. I mean, it really is. But everyone wants to be a 5. It can happen with what you're doing in the classroom and your outputs and your student achievement and all that good stuff. But it's tough. And that's the factor that is so difficult for principals.
Is there any way to see the data as far as how many teachers are scoring, you know, what level?
There's information out about the statewide, and I'll see if I can pull some of it. It may be on the state website. There should be information on how many teachers are level 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Should be some information out there. I know your teacher probably could get it from the core office, the Department of Ed, the Center of Regional Excellence, which is the one located at TSB campus. It's a state operated by the state of Tennessee, but they should have that information. There's a team evaluator person who kind of works with those areas. But you should, I'd ask my co-op teacher to see if we can find something out. And I'll see what I can pull. Yeah.
Speaking of which, I have in the school that I'm in, the school I'm in is a felon school. But some teachers are still would have 4 stars or 4. But majority of them are 3s. But at the same time, they are concerned because they have a new principal this year. They're going to be reconstituted and a whole bunch of other issues. They mentioned also that if they, for some fact that where they work, it's hard for them to go to another school to work because they're already considered as a felon teacher because the school is a felon school. But the school has like always been a felon school, and I don't know if it's like that in every major city. That the inner city schools are so low. I mean, why is that a trend? And I don't know if it's normal with the.
I hate to say normal because that's not a good way.
Yeah, it's not normal.
There's a lot of difficulties, and a lot of it comes back to. And let's just put this: rural communities, urban communities have the same issues. It may be
And that's where my
different.
heart is, and I'm afraid to
It may be
say it.
different usage of drugs in the rural as in the urban sector, but you have the same problems.
Yeah.
It takes a group effort to turn that school around. That's why people come in with the principal, like they're going to change principal, change leadership, and they're really going drastic on one end or the other. It is tough. And if you're a teacher caught up in that process, a lot of times it's better to take the transfer or the movement to another location if that happens. It's not easy, but that's kind of what best happens. Sometimes it's best to cut it and go somewhere else. If you're in the process and you're with the new principal and it's tough, I mean, you're going to go through some major changes and some major reform efforts that will be not like any other school in the world. And that's working with schools that are high risk, high need schools. There's a lot of kind of this is the process we're going to go through. But to go back to teaching, it's professional learning communities. It's the instructional shifts that we're talking about. It's the doing what's really needed, and that's when those schools really soar and do a better job. Same thing in the rural environment. If it was easy to go through that process, or as far as teaching wise, everybody would do it and everybody top level 4 or 5. And your clientele in a rural environment or urban, difficult. Because they don't value education like that. They don't come from an environment that values education.
Do the schools turn around? Have you witnessed?
A lot of them have, yeah. You'll see a lot of change for Park this next year. It'll bring people back down, and you'll see a lot of different changes.